Ethan's ship hummed softly as it glided through the deep purple of uncharted space. He checked the instruments for the third time that hour. His assignment was simple: deliver supplies to a distant mining colony and return. Yet something about this sector felt different. The energy readings he was seeing didn't match any known star patterns. Maybe it's just interference, Ethan muttered, rubbing his eyes. The screen flickered again, showing a spike of energy coming from a nearby uncharted planet. Curious, and perhaps recklessly, he decided to investigate. He adjusted the controls and set a course for the strange planet. As his ship descended through the thick, swirling clouds, Ethan could make out the outline of a ruined city. Buildings towered like broken teeth of some ancient beast. The landscape was jagged and eerie, yet there was a strange beauty to its metallic towers that shimmered faintly. Reflecting the light of the planet's twin suns, stepping onto the planet's surface, Ethan felt the crunch of crystalline dust under his boots. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with an energy that made his skin tingle. He activated his scanner, which beeped in confusion. Nothing in his databases matched these readings. Suddenly, he sensed movement. A shadow flickered across the ruined streets, moving faster than anything humanly possible. Ethan froze. His heart raced, but he reminded himself, stay calm. Analyze first. From the shadows emerged a figure tall, strong, and undeniably alien. She had silver skin that shimmered under the twin suns, eyes a striking shade of violet, and hair that seemed to float as if underwater. She moved with fluid grace, every step purposeful and calculated. Ethan instinctively raised his hands. "I'm not a threat," he said, trying to sound calm despite the adrenaline. The alien's eyes narrowed. She scanned him quickly, her gaze sharp and piercing. Then she opened her mouth, and a sound unlike any language he had heard escaped her. It was melodic, but full of power and warning. Ethan realized she was communicating, but he could not understand her words. He took a careful step forward. "I'm just a traveler. I mean no harm." For a moment, she didn't move. Then, almost like a blur, she darted toward him, but instead of attacking, she froze mid-step. Ethan noticed her breathing was rapid, almost strained. She looked around, agitated, as if searching for someone or something. Ethan's instincts kicked in. "You're hurt, aren't you?" he asked gently, stepping closer, but keeping his hands visible. The alien hesitated, then tilted her head. She gestured toward her chest and stomach. Ethan realized she was in distress. Physical, perhaps biological. He quickly scanned her using his portable medical device. The readings were off the charts. Her energy levels fluctuated wildly, her vital signs unstable. "I can help you," Ethan said. "I have medical training. I can stabilize you." Her eyes widened. Was it surprise or disbelief? Then she made a sound that seemed softer this time, almost curious. Carefully, Ethan approached and began adjusting her energy flow with his device. The alien flinched, but did not resist. Within moments, her breathing steadied, and the rapid fluctuations in her energy reading slowed. She studied him in silence. Ethan felt the weight of her gaze, a mixture of suspicion, curiosity, and something he couldn't name. He smiled gently. "See, I'm not your enemy." For the first time, she stepped closer on her own. She extended a hand, and Ethan noticed her touch was warm despite her metallic appearance. "Lyara," he heard her say in a soft, musical voice, though he wasn't sure if it was her name or a sound that matched her species' expression of identity. He repeated it cautiously. "Lyara." She nodded once, her eyes never leaving his. Then, almost imperceptibly, she seemed to relax. The tension in her body faded slightly, though her strength was still obvious. Ethan could feel the power radiating from her, an energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. "You're alone?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice low. Lyara made a sound that seemed to confirm it. Ethan realized she had been in some kind of danger and had survived alone. Her people, if she had any, were nowhere in sight. "Don't worry," Ethan said. "You're safe for now. Let me help you." He offered a hand to guide her toward a safe spot among the ruins. Hesitantly, she took it, her strength evident as she nearly lifted him off his feet with the lightest pull. Ethan had to use his grip to steady himself, marveling at her power. As they moved through the broken city, Ethan tried to understand what had brought her here. "What happened to this place?" he asked. Lyra's expression darkened. She gestured toward the ruins, then made a series of sounds, pointing at Ethan, then herself, and finally the horizon. Ethan guessed she was trying to explain an attack or disaster that had wiped out her city. The reality of it hit him. She had survived alone in a devastated world, and he was the first human she had encountered. Night fell quickly on the planet, and the twin suns dipped below the jagged horizon. Ethan set up a small protective shelter using his portable equipment. He watched as Lyra circled it, sniffing the air and scanning for threats. He understood that she was cautious, aware of danger even in temporary safety. "You must be very strong," he said carefully, trying to engage her while keeping her calm. "But even strong people need help sometimes." Her violet eyes met his, and for a moment, Ethan thought he saw a flicker of something like hope. Then she let out a soft sound, almost like an acknowledgement. As they settled down for the night, Ethan kept the scanner on. He monitored her vital signs carefully. He noticed her energy levels spiking again, but this time in a different way, more controlled, almost rhythmic. His mind raced as he tried to interpret it. Lyra's species clearly had a biological cycle he didn't fully understand, but it was clear it had something to do with her current state of vulnerability. Despite the danger and strangeness, Ethan felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was the first person to show her kindness in what seemed like an eternity, and in a way he could not yet comprehend, he sensed that Lyra was forming a connection with him not just for survival, but something deeper. Hours passed, and Ethan found himself keeping watch while she rested. Every so often, Lyra would stir, her body tense, before relaxing again. He realized that his presence alone seemed to calm her. He wondered at the complexity of her emotions, her instincts, and the strange pull he felt toward her. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and studied him closely. She stepped forward and touched his shoulder lightly, not aggressively, but intentionally. The energy from her touch coursed through him, a strange but not unpleasant sensation. He realized then that her species communicated not only with words, but through physical energy and presence. "You chose me," Ethan whispered, unsure if he was imagining it. Lyra tilted her head, and for the first time, she let out a sound that seemed almost like a human sigh of relief. Ethan understood. Her instincts had guided her to him. In her vulnerable state, she had found someone who could help protect, perhaps even understand her. The night grew deeper, the winds of the ruined city whispering around them. Ethan stared at the stars above, realizing that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just an engineer on a routine mission. He had become a part of something extraordinary, something beyond human comprehension, as the first rays of dawn lit the shattered towers. Lyra stood beside him, calm and watchful. Ethan knew that the bond forming between them was more than chance. It was instinct, survival, and the spark of connection between two very different beings. He did not know what the future held. But one thing was clear. Lyra had chosen him. And now, whether he was ready or not, he would face whatever challenges came next with her by his side. Cliffhanger. Lyra's violet eyes glinted with determination, and Ethan felt the undeniable truth of her choice. The bond had begun, and neither of them could turn back. The twin suns rose over the ruined city, casting long shadows across jagged metal and crystal ruins. Ethan stood at the edge of a broken tower, his gaze scanning the horizon. He had spent the night beside Lyra, watching over her as she rested. Despite the alien biology that made her powerful yet vulnerable, he felt increasingly responsible for her well-being. Lyra approached silently, her violet eyes focused on him. She moved with that same fluid grace, each step purposeful, controlled, yet strangely delicate when she neared him. Ethan noticed she no longer seemed wary. Instead, she regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and something else he could not yet name. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked, breaking the morning silence. Lyra inclined her head. Today, They had to understand more about her world. Why her city had been destroyed, whether the attackers were still nearby. Ethan had no idea what awaited them, but he felt a surge of determination. If he was going to be part of this strange bond, he had to prove himself. The ruined city was deceptively quiet. Scanners detected faint energy signatures nearby, likely from the attackers who had destroyed Lyra's home. Ethan wondered what kind of beings could wreak such destruction. Lyra explained, in her musical but alien language, that her people were rare, advanced, and often targeted for their unique abilities. Ethan only understood fragments, but her gestures and expressions told him enough. Danger was still close. They moved cautiously. Ethan relying on his human instincts, Lyra on her extraordinary senses. When a faint rustling came from the rubble, Ethan's heart skipped. A pack of alien hunters appeared, their bodies lithe, dark, and fast-moving. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she readied herself. "Stay behind me," she said in a tone that Ethan instinctively understood. The hunters attacked with swift precision. But Ethan, armed with only a small energy blaster, stayed calm. He watched Lyra strike with incredible strength and speed. Her movements were a blur, each one calculated, each one lethal, without being careless. Ethan realized that even in danger, she exuded control, intelligence, and confidence. When one of the hunters tried to flank them, Ethan acted on instinct. He pressed a hidden control on his wrist, triggering a small net device that ensnared the alien before it could reach Lyra. Surprised? Lyra glanced at him with wide eyes, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You're clever," she said, her voice almost amused. Ethan blushed slightly. "I do what I can," he replied. But inside, he felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he realized he could contribute, not just survive alongside Lyra, but actively help her. The battle ended quickly, and the hunters retreated. Lyra looked over her shoulder, scanning the horizon. "They'll be back," she said. Ethan nodded, understanding that the danger was far from over as they walked further into the ruins. Lyra began to explain more about her species. She gestured to the remains of towers and structures, showing Ethan where her people had lived, worked, and defended themselves. Though she spoke in her alien language, Ethan could sense the pride, the pain, and the history she carried. "You miss them," he said quietly. Lyra's violet eyes softened. She nodded once, then turned her gaze toward him as if acknowledging that he understood. Ethan felt a deep connection forming, not just as protector and companion, but as someone who could share the weight of loss, survival, and hope. Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra worked together to repair a small energy transmitter in the ruins. It was fragile technology, far beyond what Ethan had seen. Yet with Lyra's guidance and his human ingenuity, they managed to get it partially functional. The transmitter could alert any nearby allies or warn them if the attackers returned. During their work, Ethan noticed changes in Lyra. Her breathing was irregular at times, her energy spikes unpredictable. He remembered the readings from the night he first found her. Carefully, he monitored her vitals, adjusting her energy levels with his device when necessary. Lyra seemed to trust him, allowing him to approach her in ways she would never allow a stranger. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the ruins in gold and violet hues, they sat side by side, exhausted but alive. Ethan looked at Lyra, marveling at her strength and resilience. "You've survived so much," he said softly. "I don't know how you do it." Lyra's eyes met his. In them, Ethan saw vulnerability. Not weakness, but depth. She made a sound that was gentle, almost a sigh, and leaned slightly closer. Ethan's heart raced. He realized that this bond between them was becoming more than survival. It was trust, respect, and a growing connection that neither could ignore suddenly. The ground trembled. Ethan jumped to his feet, scanning the horizon. Lyra's eyes narrowed, her body coiling like a spring ready to strike. From the shadows of the distant towers, a large force of alien attackers approached. Ethan felt a surge of fear, but also determination. He had faced danger before, but never like this, never alongside someone so powerful and yet so connected to him. "Stay close," Lyra whispered, her energy glowing faintly as she prepared to defend them. The attackers struck swiftly, their numbers overwhelming. Liara moved with unparalleled skill, her strength and speed unmatched. Ethan did his best to support her, using his ingenuity to set traps, block paths, and protect her from stray attacks. For every move Liara made, Ethan noticed her studying him, seeing how he adapted, how he thought, how he could survive in a world that was not his own. During the fight, one of the attackers lunged directly at Liara. Without hesitation, Ethan stepped forward, putting himself between them. The alien struck, and Ethan barely managed to deflect the blow with a reinforced shield from his suit. Pain shot through his arm, but he stood firm, protecting Liara. She froze for a moment, eyes wide with surprise. Then, with renewed determination, she unleashed a surge of energy that sent the attackers scattering. Ethan staggered but remained upright, heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through him. "You risked yourself for me," Liara said, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan shook his head, catching his breath. "We protect each other," he replied. It was instinct, but also the truth. Their bond had grown beyond mere chance. It was trust, reliance, and a strange, powerful connection neither fully understood yet. As the attackers retreated into the shadows, Ethan and Liara took a moment to recover. Liara approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. The touch was firm but gentle, grounding him. Ethan realized then that this bond was mutual. He had chosen to protect her, just as she had chosen him. That night, as they sat by a small fire he had managed to start, Liara spoke more clearly than ever before. She gestured to Ethan, then to herself, then made a sound that seemed to confirm something vital. Ethan understood. Her species' biological cycle was at its peak. She was vulnerable to attack, but also deeply connected to him as her chosen mate. Ethan's mind raced. He had never imagined this being part of an alien world, protecting a powerful being, and forming a bond that went beyond friendship or survival. Yet looking at Liara, he felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. "Whatever comes next," he said quietly, "we face it together." Liara's eyes glinted with a mix of trust, instinct, and something like admiration. She leaned closer, not aggressively, but with intent. Ethan felt the energy between them, a bond that was biological, emotional, and unbreakable. The night stretched on, quiet except for the occasional distant sounds of the ruined city. Ethan knew that tomorrow would bring new dangers, challenges, and revelations. Yet, for the first time in his life, he felt ready not just to survive, but to stand beside someone extraordinary, to face unknown threats, and to grow alongside a being far stronger, wiser, and more complex than anyone he had ever known. Cliffhanger, as they finally rested. Ethan noticed distant lights on the horizon, another approaching force. Lyra's eyes flared, and he knew the next challenge would test everything: their skills, their bond, and their will to survive together. The twin suns had barely risen when Ethan and Liara stood at the edge of the ruined city, gazing at the distant horizon. Smoke and faint energy flares marked the approach of a new threat, the rival alien faction that had long haunted Liara's world. Ethan's heart pounded, but he felt no fear. Not like before. Standing beside Liara, he had learned courage, strategy, and the strength that comes from trust. Liara's violet eyes glimmered with determination. "They come for us," she said softly, but her voice carried power. Ethan nodded. He understood the stakes. This was no longer a mere skirmish. This was survival for her people, her world, and the bond they had formed. Ethan adjusted the small energy device on his wrist, checking the traps and defenses they had prepared over the past few days. Liara had instructed him carefully, blending her alien knowledge with his human ingenuity. It was a combination neither enemy had expected, raw strength and cunning strategy united. "They will not take this world," Ethan said, more to himself than to her. Liara's eyes softened. She placed a hand on his arm, a gesture that spoke of trust, respect, and a connection that transcended words. Ethan felt warmth and energy flow from her touch, grounding him. He realized that their bond was not only physical, it was emotional, instinctive, and deeply mutual. As the attackers approached, the ground shook under their immense power. Ethan and Liara took positions atop a ridge, overlooking the battlefield. He marveled at her control over energy, the way her body seemed to channel immense power effortlessly. Every movement she made was precise, yet fluid. A perfect balance of instinct and intellect. The attackers struck with ferocity. Their numbers were overwhelming, but Ethan's traps slowed them down. Energy nets, temporary force fields, and cleverly designed pitfalls turned their advances into chaos. From above, he could see Liara striking with unmatched precision. Her energy blasts incapacitated several attackers at once, her movements a blur of speed and strength. At one point, an enemy managed to break through the traps and lunged directly at Liara. Without hesitation, Ethan leaped forward, intercepting the attack. He pressed the energy shield he had modified against the alien, holding firm despite the force. Pain shot through his arms, but he gritted his teeth and stood his ground. Lyra's violet eyes widened in surprise, and then with a surge of power, she struck the enemy with controlled energy, sending it flying. "You are brave," Liara said, her voice filled with awe. Ethan caught his breath. "We protect each other," he replied. The words were simple, yet they carried weight. This bond between them had grown from trust, respect, and shared danger. The battle continued, but the tide began to turn. Lyra's leadership was unmatched. She directed her people with clarity and strategy. While Ethan anticipated enemy movements, setting traps and coordinating defenses, the synergy between human ingenuity and alien power was unprecedented. During a brief lull, Liara approached Ethan. "You have proven yourself," she said, "not only in strength, but in heart." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of pride and belonging. "I stand with you," he said simply. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Lyra's eyes softened, her violet glow pulsing faintly in the morning light. She reached out, touching his shoulder with a gesture that conveyed trust and acknowledgement. Ethan realized that being her chosen mate was more than a biological connection. It was a partnership, a union of strength, courage, and mutual respect. The enemy launched a final assault. A concentrated wave of attackers aiming directly for Liara. Ethan positioned himself between her and the threat. Liara paused, looking at him, and in that instant, Ethan understood the depth of her reliance on him. He was not just her protector. He was her partner in every sense. The attack came with terrifying speed. Ethan's shield flared as he deflected blows, his mind racing for strategy. Liara moved alongside him, her energy surging, her strikes precise. Together, they formed an unbreakable defense. Every move complemented the other human ingenuity, alien power, and trust in action. At a critical moment, an enormous enemy approached, its size dwarfing anything they had faced. Ethan realized they had to combine their strengths fully. He signaled to Liara, who nodded. In a coordinated effort, she unleashed a controlled energy surge, while Ethan activated a sequence of traps designed to amplify her energy field. The result was a massive shockwave that incapacitated the enemy, leaving the battlefield silent, but for the hum of energy devices. Liara turned to Ethan, her violet eyes shining with gratitude and admiration. "You are more than I imagined," she said softly. "You are my mate, my partner, my equal." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. He had never imagined his journey would lead him here. From a simple supply mission to standing beside a powerful alien in the defense of her world, he smiled, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known. "We face everything together," he said, "no matter what comes next." With the battle won, Lyra's people emerged from hiding. They looked at Ethan with a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and awe. A human had not only survived their world, but had proven himself in ways no alien could have predicted. Lyra's species began to accept him not as an outsider, but as someone vital to their survival and future. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky with shades of gold and violet, Liara approached Ethan. She placed both hands on his shoulders, her energy calm yet vibrant. "You are mine," she said, not in possession, but in acknowledgement of the bond they shared. "And I am yours." Ethan nodded, understanding the depth of her words. This bond was not about control or fear. It was about mutual respect, trust, and the recognition of each other's strength. In that moment, he realized that he had found a place where he truly belonged, a partner, a home, and a purpose beyond anything he had ever imagined. The two stood together, looking over the rebuilt defenses of the city, feeling the pulse of life returning. The air shimmered with energy, not just from Lyara, but from hope and possibility. Together, they had survived, learned, and grown. Together, they would face the challenges of a new world, united in strength, trust, and bond. As night fell, Ethan reflected on the journey. From the moment he had stumbled onto that ruined planet, he had been thrust into danger, uncertainty, and wonder. Yet, through courage, ingenuity, and empathy, he had earned his place beside Lyara. Lyara, standing beside him, radiated strength and serenity. Her violet eyes met his, and for the first time, Ethan felt completely understood, not just as a human, but as someone capable, courageous, and worthy of the extraordinary bond they shared in the quiet of the alien night. With stars above and the hum of returning life below, Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. He had survived the trials, proven himself, and formed a bond that transcended worlds. The challenges ahead would be many, but together, he and Lyara would face them all stronger, united, and unbreakable. The story closed on a note of hope, adventure and unity, human ingenuity and courage, combined with alien power and wisdom, could overcome any obstacle. Ethan had not only survived alien trials, he had become part of something greater, a force of trust, strength, and partnership that would endure far beyond a single battle or a single world.